Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all lives' buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets, another fantastic episode here live in studio. We have Mark Gray. He is the head officials assigner at BASO, as well as the instructor to all of the officials. And one person that I really admire as far as how he handles himself professionally, and just a really good dude. And I've known him probably for the last 10 or so years. So I'm glad to have you on, Mark Gray. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a long time waiting. Been excited to be on the show. I've seen many of your podcasts and with the great people that you have on here, and just happy to be here.
For sure. We were supposed to do it over the summer, but things happen, but this is the right time to actually do it. So
Yes,
why don't we just start? Give us a fun fact about yourself that most people might not even know about you.
One fun fact about me is that, you know, as serious I look on the basketball court when officiating, I'm actually a really, down to earth guy who people can relate to really well off the court. I'm a family man, have two great grandchildren that I love, and family that supports me in the things that I do. So, avid golfer.
Yeah.
So that's a couple good
And
things.
so you mentioned, so you're a big, strong dude, and when they see you on the floor, they might think, or they have this perception of you. Is that like an armor you put on? So when you get out there, you want to make sure that you have control of the game and kind of what's going on, or is that just, you're in game mode and you want to get to business?
I'm pretty much in game mode. They call me Smiley because I don't smile a lot on the court, and people may think that as a I'm not an approachable person, but I'm very approachable on the court, off the court. When I'm on the court, it's just down to business and giving the schools and coaches and players the best that I got on the court.
For sure. And that's one of the things that I really like is that professionalism that you have. You really go into depth when it comes to understanding your opponents and also understanding who you can put on certain games, because as the assigner, it's your duty to make sure that you put the proper and the best officials on some of these best games, because some of these guys and gals, they can't handle some of these high level games specifically in our league. So talk to us about that. What is your process when it goes to assigning certain officials to games and things of that nature?
Well, I would be remiss in saying that it's all not me. Scott Calvin, who's a co-educator and pretty much holds the whole education under his wing. We kind of have a daily conversation during basketball. We're joined at the hip, pretty much trying to get officials in the right place, knowing the schools, knowing the opponents, knowing the coaches. You have to take that all into perspective when you're assigned. You just can't, put an official out there and say, okay, well, do your best. Especially in the West Catholic Athletic League and some of the higher up A-League schools, you just can't put anybody out there. So it's a constant dialogue between Scott and I during the week of what's the best officials to put on your game or any other high level game and make it a match. So at the end of the night, the coaches and the players are satisfied with the product that we put out there.
Yeah, like you said, it is a team effort. And Scott, I've known Scott for a number of years too. Back in the day, I don't know if you remember, but I used to ref. And when PSI was around, Scott was educating us, me and my buddy Nate Anderson.
Okay.
And so I ref for you guys for 3 years, and he started to put me on like the last 2 years. He started to put me on some varsity games and things like that, and him and Curtis Russell.
Yes.
So I have a unique perspective when it comes to officiating because I used to do it. I was still a JV coach, so they wouldn't give me games in our league.
Yes.
They would give me games, and I would do the NJBs and I would do AAU. So I have a strong respect for what you guys do. And the reason why I stopped reffing is because of people like me, crazy coaches and crazy parents.
Yes.
And that was the reason why I kind of got out of the game. And I think for all of us, we need to understand how important the officials are to our game. Because if we don't have you guys, we don't have a game.
I agree.
We really don't.
Yes.
And I think that's important. And I feel like these next 5 years are extremely important because it can go one way or the other. I know you guys are doing a fantastic job of bringing in new officials,
Yes.
retaining older officials. So talk to us about the importance of how the referees are treated.
So, we went through the whole COVID thing. We lost a lot of officials during COVID. After COVID, officials started coming back. But now you have the dynamics of COVID coming back from COVID, and then the fans and some of the coaches. With the fans, I understand their passion about their son or daughters playing and things, and kind of gets on the ref.
Right.
But there's a point to where you can't cross that line.
Sure.
And I think these days, most of the parents cross that line to where it's just not fun for the officials because, we do basketball for the love of it, not for the money. We're not getting rich doing this by any means. So
No.
we all work regular jobs, and this is our passion, so we do it. But when you come out to a game and try to officiate the best you can, and then you have parents just going in on you, saying personal stuff, that's where you draw the line. And most officials can't handle that if they're just coming in. Right. So I don't need to take this for whatever amount of money they're making that night. So they just quit. Me, I've been in it for 18 years, so I kind of know how to handle parents and coaches, and it's all about relationships, right?
Right.
I can go over to you and say, hey, Chris, I don't want to throw this parent out, but we need to do something about it. And then I'll know that you'll take care of it, or your administration will take care of it right away.
Right.
Some of these younger officials, they don't know how to handle that situation, so they just get frazzled. They won't come to you or any other coach or the administration and say, hey, can we take care of this parent? They'll just let the parent or the fan just keep berating them for the whole game. And then after the game, they say, I don't need this. I don't take this. So I think it's a conjunction of officials, our officials in our association and any other association. If you have that kind of a problem that you're having, you can't concentrate on the game because you got parents or whatever on you, just go straight to the administration. That's what we tell all our officials. If you need to handle a fan, go to the administration first, let them deal with it. And if they don't deal with it, kick the fan out and then don't start the game until that fan is gone so you can get back to business.
Right. I think you mentioned a lot of things, but number one, like our social media, we're all sounding boards. So everybody feels like they have a voice.
Yes.
And my feeling is people think they have a voice when it comes to this too. And, and we as coaches, we get it sometimes too, because parents think that they can coach better than us. But did they put the amount of hours that we put in? Did they put the preparation that we put in? Did they, whether they played the game or not? Did you study for the team that we're actually playing against?
Yes.
Did you actually watch scouting tape, which we do, hours and hours of that sort of stuff? And I wish people would understand the official side, because you guys are traveling far, there's nowhere close really.
Yes.
I mean, depending on where you live.
Yes.
I mean, even if you live in Santa Clara and you have to come out to Valley Christian,
Yeah.
that is hard to get to on an evening during the week.
Yes. Yes.
And or if you're coming from the South Bay, you have to go up to Peninsula. It's not really easy to get there.
Yeah.
Then when you get there, there are different things. If you go to a school that you're familiar with, maybe you see a familiar face with the administration, they might sit you down. Here's a place to change. Here's this, here's that. But some schools don't have that. Some schools don't have the infrastructure for the administration to help you guys.
Yeah.
And then you might not have a relationship with the coaches, because it might be the first time, it might be a new coach. So it's just a lot that goes into it. And before the ball even tips, like, it's just crazy. And then you guys got to deal with, so then you have your coaches meeting with the coaches, but then you also have to meet with the players, and then you have to meet with the table.
Yes.
And then if you got a table that doesn't know what they're doing, they're putting one person's a veteran, the other person's maybe a student or a student athlete
Yes.
doing the home book.
Yes.
And then you got somebody on the shot clock.
Okay.
There's just a lot of stuff that could go wrong.
Yes.
So talk about that process and what is it like for an official as you prepare for a game? You got a game the next day. Do you reach out to your partner or partners?
Yes.
Do you reach out to the school? What is the process for an official to actually get to the game and tip the ball?
So you made a good point. I mean, the traffic in the Bay Area is crazy. In our association, we cover from all the way from Palo Alto to the Morgan Hill border. So any schools within that area, they're traveling to on a given day. We try to tell the officials to be there at least 45 minutes before their game. But with traffic, and job thing, that just doesn't happen. So,
Sure.
Most of the time we're getting there 30 minutes before the game, trying to find out a place to dress. Some schools, like you said, don't have the facilities like other schools. So most of the time you're coming half dressed, just have your shirt in your bag or something, and then just go into the locker room, change real quick, and we ask the officials to be on the court 15 minutes before the game, to observe the teams. And then if you don't have a table that's experienced, because most of it is just kids, and kids and cell phones don't mix, especially when they're trying to keep the clock or the shot clock or the scorebook. So all those things you have to take in factor. And then it depends on the team. Is it contentious two teams that's playing where you have to do a lot of dead ball officiating, a lot of talking to them to keep them out of trouble and things of that nature. So, everybody thinks that officials just, okay, they don't go to any trainings or anything like that. They just come on the court, no matter if they're new or 18 years. That's not true. Scott puts on a very extensive training a month and a half before the season starts. So we're going through rules. We're going through areas of responsibility on the court with other veteran officials that can help us out doing that. So it's not just the officials just jumping on the court. We do give an extensive training program before they step on the court. And if you're a first 2-year official, you're not gonna sniff a varsity game, for another 2, 3, 5 years. So we just don't put any official on any varsity game. You have to work your way up, just like I did when I was coming up. I didn't do any varsity games for the first 2, 3 years, and then the more work I put in, trying to hone in on my craft, and that's when people notice, and you get better games. But officiating and assigning is not a thankless job.
Right.
It's officiating takes a lot of mental. It's a lot of mental things that you have to think of. You have to build relationships with coaches and players, and I think in the era of now, I think that officials do not take the time to build relationships with coaches and players.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, everybody has their knack with a coach. It's how you communicate that knack with the coach and get on the same page. Because if you're just going to go in there and start giving technicals and not discussing things with coaches, that's going to rub coaches the wrong way, and they
Right.
feel that they can't talk to you, or they know what kind of game they're in for if they say anything.
Right.
So we want that kind of dialogue with all coaches and officials, because it just makes the game better.
Yeah.
Makes the game flow better. If you have a relationship with the kids, you can go to a kid and say, hey, you might want to stay a little bit stiller on that screen instead of moving, because that is an illegal screen, and I may have to call it next time. And then the kid will be receptive to that, and they will do what you asked them to do. But if you just go in there and just, this is my way, no other way, then that's not going to bode well for the officials or the coaches, because it's always going to be a chess match.
And how do you go about getting that rapport with coaches? How do you go about creating those relationships with the coaches?
I'm going to speak from my experience, and there's 3 coaches or 4 coaches that I really respect, even though we've had battles on the court. One was you.
Thank you.
Ryan Cooper, Kevin Mack, and can't think, McGilvery from Santa Clara.
Mhm.
So when you and I first met, I think our met was about, I was doing one of your games about 6 or 7 years ago, and I think we knew each other, but you had never seen me on the court.
Sure.
And there was one call I made on one of your girls, and you didn't agree with it. And I just gave you my.
We said that politely, by the way.
Yeah, you didn't agree with it. I gave you my perspective of it, and that's all you can do is give your perspective. I said, Chris, I may have missed it, and but from what my perspective was, that's what it was, and you respected that. And I think all the coaches that I've mentioned kind of had that respect for me, because they know I'm not gonna give them any answer just to appease them. I'm going to give them the right answer. If I was wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. We can beg to differ.
Yeah.
Kevin Mack's another one. Kevin Mack can scream at me on the court about a call I missed, and I can tee him up. But next day, we're just back to, our regular friendship or whatever, because I have that respect, and I have that respect for all the coaches that I mentioned, and all the coaches that I officiate for, and they had a same respect for me. So, and that's what we're trying to get our younger officials to do as they come up in the ranks, because we have some very good officials that's coming up in the ranks, and you might see them on some of your games or higher level varsity games, because they've worked their way up to building that trust with me and Scott. And we know if we put them on a game with a more veteran official, then they'll get the job done, and it won't be any issues.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing is it's got to be a two-way respect. And when I sat down with Coop last week, one of the things that he mentioned was most of the officials are trying to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you approach it like that, you guys don't really want to mess up.
Yes.
You're trying to do the best you can. And so if we see that as coaches, then that's where we can have that mutual respect. If we don't see that,
mm-hmm.
if you're the trail official,
mm-hmm.
and there's a call in the Leeds area,
mm-hmm.
and you're making that call and you're back at the other side of the court,
yes,
that's where we have an issue, because I know that you are going to fight for position.
Yes.
And if you can fight for a position, that gives you the best opportunity to see that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not in position, that's the easiest way that you're not going to be able to make the call from my perspective. Now, you might have a different perspective on it, but if you are in the area, if there's a way that you can get depth, like on the baseline at
mm-hmm.
certain schools and
mm-hmm.
things like that, then you're going to be in a far better position to actually see the call.
Yes.
But the positioning, I think, for me is the biggest thing. If I see that you're hustling, trying to get in position, and you just missed the call,
mm-hmm.
well, at least you were hustling.
Yes.
You weren't 45 feet away from the call when it should have been the Leeds call, not the trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a big thing from the coach's side, where it's like, okay, this person's trying.
Yeah.
Or like Reggie, the other day I had Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know Reggie. You'll know Reggie if you even haven't even seen him, because he's not 6'7", but he walks like he's 6'7".
Yes, yes.
And so I'm doing my thing. I'm yelling at him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really yelling. Reggie, you got that? What did it? He's like, Coach, you got a question for me? And all I could do is laugh.
Yeah.
I just laughed at him because he was right. I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Because he was on the other side. I'm making him not look bad, but it wasn't, I'm yelling at him from the other side. It would be one thing if he was on this side, but he wasn't. I'm like, Reggie, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
He's like, Coach, you got a question for me? And I was like,
that's Reggie. That's
I was
Reggie.
like, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. He's like, and then he, how he almost swallows his whistle
Yeah.
while he comes, you got a question for me? I said, nope, we good. We good. So I think just one of the things that we talked about over the summer at one of your professional developments was just having some canned responses to the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Coach, I just didn't see it. I'm going to, work for the position next time. Or,
Yeah.
Coach, you got a question like Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any canned responses that you can give some of the officials that might be listening to this, advice for?
I would just say that, and and to speak on your point about being in a good position, Scott and I teach that in our training class. You can't be in the wrong position and make a call that, because although it's perceived that coaches don't know where officials should be on the court, they do.
Yeah.
Coaches know the rules. I mean, because they study the rules, just like they know where the call or the whistle should come from.
Yep.
So if they see a whistle that comes from out of the area where they don't think it should be, then yeah, they're going to question you.
Right.
And how you respond to that question is going to be key, because one, it's going to tell the coach that, okay, he's confident in what he saw, and he or she kind of knows what they're doing.
Right.
Or two, the coach is going to be like, you just lost the coach at that point, because one, you're not in position. Two, it was the wrong call, and then you couldn't explain it right.
Right.
So, it's twofold. I just tell the young officials and officials that I'm working with, don't BS the coach. Tell them what you saw. Tell them if you missed a call, just tell them. It's not like you can do it every play down. He'd take the first one, but the second, third one, the fourth one, he's going to question, your ability to be able to officiate that game. So I just tell them, use the verbiage that's in the rule book. Okay, coach, he wasn't legal. Coach, I saw the hit on the head. The lead official couldn't catch that. It's an outside official's call. Just be short and direct with what your response is.
Right.
And you just have to move on after that.
And what do you do when you lose a coach? Because, is there any going back from that?
I do not. Once you lose a coach, you've lost him, because he has no confidence in your ability to officiate that game. And then that's when Scott or I get the calls, with clips. As officials, we look at clips too. I look at clips all the time, high school, and me being a college official, I have to look at plays that might impact the game and see what I could have done better. So I think that if you lose a coach, it's no coming back. I always tell officials, reel it in early so you don't have to reel it in late. If you let it get out of hand in the first half of the game, and then you try and reel it in late portions of the game, there's no reeling that back in. So set your standard on what's going to be called, and leave it at that the whole game, because you can't go back and forth.
Right.
And that makes coaches go insane too, because now they don't know how to call plays, because the game is so out of whack of what they're calling and what they're not calling. You as a coach pretty much know the officials that's going to be there, and what kind of game you can call based on the officials that's going to be on that game.
Right. And coaches, you got to make adjustments too, depending on how they're calling it. If they're calling it tight early, then they're going to call it tight late. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that your players are adjusting to that. And I think there's a lot of emotion when it comes to basketball too. Yeah. I know that, from a coach's perspective, we put a lot of stuff into it.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with a lot of different things. We're dealing with the 12 players we have on the team. We're dealing with the administration. We're dealing with the parents. We're dealing with all these things that go into play. Now we got to play kids, playing time. All that stuff is just kind of going real fast. And then you're watching film and you're studying the other team to try to give your team the best opportunity to win.
Yes.
So there's a lot of emotions that it comes when it comes to coaching. Mm-hmm. And does it need to be that much? No, I don't think so. But, in talking with Sue Phillips, the coach at Midi, sometimes the competition gets the worst of us as coaches. Mm-hmm. So, I'm pretty calm when you just see me just like you are when we're sitting here and we can have like a real conversation. But sometimes if you've never seen me coach and I get to the floor, you're like, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, who is that dude? Is that, because that's not normally how
I've said that a couple times.
Yeah. I'm not normally like that. And then right after the game is over, I'll always go to the officials. Hey, it was all in the competition. Thanks for what you did. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I lose it. I know that parents lose it because, they're just focused on their child and their child's production on the court. Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot. So, and I think that if you can remain calm as a referee that is your biggest asset, and you do a good job. Scott obviously does a really good job with it. Just a stoic demeanor, even when you guys make a strong, like a tough call. It might be a block charge where one coach thinks it's a block, one thinks it's a charge, and you just kind of stand there and you hold firm there. You wait a second till things kind of die down.
Yes.
I think having a presence, even as a coach, you got to have a presence with your group.
Yes.
You have to have a presence in everything you do. I think that is another thing from a coach's perspective. Just have a presence. Even if you miss a call, stand on the call, okay, for that time being. Talk to the coach if you come into the sideline, if it's a shooting foul, because you're going to be on their side.
Yes.
Say, coach, from this angle, this is what I saw. And, I'll take a look at it if you want to send me the clip later.
Yeah.
Because what can you say?
Yeah.
You're trying your best and you're trying to be in the right spots. And if you are in the right spot and you're doing your best, then what can we really say at the end of the day?
Yeah.
But I think having a calm demeanor is extremely important. Why don't you touch on that a little bit?
I try to tell officials that as the intensity rises on a game, your demeanor has to be the same. Your intensity can't rise with the intensity of the game, because all that's going to do is make it more volatile in that nature. So as officials, we know when the intensity is wrapping up, and we either got to do two things: call the game tighter, or talk to the players a little bit more to keep them out of those jackpots. And I think it's just natural for younger officials that's coming up. As the intensity rises, they feel they have to rise with that intensity. No, it's the opposite. Your intensity needs to come down, because you need to be able to ref the 10 players on the court, manage players that are kind of out of control, kind of talk to them, kind of talk to the coach and let them know what you're seeing. So maybe the coach will just bring them out of the game and let them relax for a little bit, and then put them back in the game.
For sure.
But if our intensity rises with the intensity of the game, it's not a good match,
right,
because it's just going to get more crazy, and we're just going to, I think as our intensity rises, then we're going to make more calls, rather right or wrong, to calm the game down and stop the clock as much as possible. Right. You want the clock to run. You don't want the clock to stop in those areas. In those times, you're going to call what you need to call, but you don't want to be ramping up fouls just because the intensity's gotten up, and that's your mechanism, is to call more fouls. The mechanism is to call less fouls, talk to them, and then let the game play out as it is.
For sure. So I want to go back and forth. There's four people, or 4 different sets of people that are involved in the basketball game. So I want to talk about improvements that each one of these 4 can make. So we'll start with the coaches, then we'll go to the officials, then we'll go to the parents, and then we'll go to the players. So we're going to start with coaches, and I'm going to give one. So the first thing that I think coaches should work on better would be, number 1, is don't live and die on every single call, because there's 100 plays. Well, there's basically, 100 possessions in a basketball game, usually, unless you're playing like a high-paced team, there might be more, but you're going to be on offense maybe 100 times. You might be on defense about the same amount. So don't live and die on every single one of the calls. Make sure that if it's a marginal call, just let it go, because you don't need to keep that for later on, because it's just going to give you pent up energy. So coaches, don't hang your hat on every single call. Wait until it actually really means something, or it affects it. If they call a hand check early on, and like we get this, especially because in our league, you guys let a lot of the more contact go. If you don't have us, we're playing in a tournament and we're going against a team that doesn't play like that. Well, we have to, as coaches, teach our team not to put hands on them. Get your hands back. All right, they hit us first in the first 2 minutes. We got 2 fouls. Well, that needs to tell us. So don't hang your hat on every single call. That would be my first one for coaches. What about you?
For me, for coaches, what what I put a debt there to after a while is coaches just after every play, it's a foul, it's traveling, it's 3 seconds. I mean, I I take some credence in it, but after the second quarter, when we're not calling it and they're still doing it, I don't I put a debt there to it. I'm not listening to it anymore. Um, I don't I don't give coaches T's, but I give them warnings. I don't even remember last time I gave a coach a T. But I give them warnings because at that point, when you're taken away from what I'm supposed to be doing just by complaining about every call on every play,
Yeah.
then that's taken away from what I'm supposed to be doing is refereeing 10 players that's on the court that's moving really fast in a very small area. So if I'm going to miss a call because a coach is completely complaining about calls every play, then I'm going to put a debt there to it. I'm going to give him a warning, give him or her a warning, and that's enough.
For sure.
I think just if it's valid, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to look at it.
Yeah.
But if it's not valid and they're just wanting calls, then I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of on a similar page. Like if I'm getting on you every time, that's a travel, that's a charge, that's a block, whatever the case may be, then it just makes it messy. So that's why I say, like, just wait.
Yeah.
Wait. It's gonna, end up evening out. Coach your team and tell them, hey, we got to make the adjustment with the officials, and then you kind of go from there.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's number one for everybody. And then the second one would be the parents. So parents, I would tell them, referee a basketball game, referee a game one time. It could be even little kids, but try to get out there and officiate a game and see how difficult it actually is.
Yes.
Because it's hard. It's really difficult. So that would be my thing for the parents. I think if you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you can really see what they're going through, what they have to go through, and how difficult it is. So that would be my thing for parents.
For parents, Nate Ramazani, who you know very well, they at Las Vegas, they had a parents' night, and he spoke on fans and parents, and he made a good quote. He said, "Little Johnny never came home and said, hey, mom or dad, thanks for getting on the refs. That really helped."
Somebody told me that.
Yeah.
I think Sarah from Los Gatos, she told me that.
Yeah. So that was a good quote. I know most parents live through their kids and want them to be better at sports or what they have. But the officials, they have nothing to do with their child's development. All they're doing is officiating the game on very little money and trying to do the best they can. And I think the parents need to understand that, or put on some stripes and come out there, because parents, they think every little contact is a foul. And in the rule book, there's two different fouls. Two different contacts, marginal and illegal. And that's what we base our foul calls off of. And if parents understood or had a rule book and would read through the rule book, they would understand what us officials are going through during the game on managing the game for 32 minutes and calling fouls that we think are illegal. Marginal contact is marginal contact. You have 10 players in an enclosed space, there's gonna be incidental contact. And once parents understand there's incidental contact and illegal contact, I think they'll better understand what our perspective is in calling fouls on.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And I just think back to my son, who is he played in a basketball league, and they were in the championship. But a few games before, the coach was gone, so I helped out and I coached. And so I'm getting really into it because I'm coaching, and then I'm a parent too. So then the coach ended up coming, and I sat back, but then I'm yelling across, get in the spots for their defense. And then my son came, he's like, there was too many people talking, Dad. I couldn't understand you. And my wife is going crazy next to me.
Yeah.
And then the coach is trying to talk to CJ
Mhm.
and the rest of the team. He's like, I just didn't know who to listen to. And I was like, dang, that's true. And so after that, I fell back and I told my wife, like, we need to chill.
Yeah.
We need to chill out. And so I just sat back. I didn't say a word the rest of the thing. We were in the championship game and the parents are going nuts on both sides of the floor. And I just sat there and I was just chilling.
Yeah.
But it's just too much emotion and it really doesn't matter. And parents out there, very few of your kids are going to go to college
Mhm.
and play basketball.
Yes.
That's just a fact.
Yes.
That is the sheer number.
Yeah.
There is a finite number of opportunities to play at the next level, and there's too many kids that want to play.
Yeah.
Number two, if they get to college, great. If they're good enough to be playing college, they're going to be a pretty good high school player. They're going to be one of the best players on the team in the area, and it'll be very evident.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are not, it is okay.
Yeah.
They don't have to because they're getting a lot of great qualities from playing basketball with a team.
Yeah.
Having structure, hard work, dedication. You got to be focused into what you're doing. Sometimes you may have to sacrifice. Sometimes you may have to be in a leadership role. There's just a lot of great things when it comes to playing team sports. And if you take that away from them because of your behavior, it just leaves it for a bad experience. We have kids quitting the game at an alarming rate on the men's and women's side, boys and girls. They're not playing because it's not fun, because the parents are putting so much added pressure and it doesn't matter.
Yes.
When we take a poll of at the end of the year, what do they mostly remember? It's never the actual game.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless maybe you win a championship, but even so, they think about, the road trip to here, the bus rides to here, hanging out in the team room here, or something funny that happened at practice when so-and-so tripped. Those are the things that they remember.
Yes.
And like we do our goals at the beginning of the year, there was one goal that actually equated to winning. That was put up a banner, whether it be CCS, NorCal, State, whatever.
Yes.
That was the only one. It was teamwork, it was communication, it was dedication, it was have fun, it was trust the process, all that stuff, and it had nothing to do with the actual winning. So parents, that would be one thing that we would probably tell you guys. It really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So
yes, exactly.
and put on some stripes.
If
you want to test it out. All right, definitely. So the third one, what can referees do better? I'll let you start on that one.
I think as a whole in referees, we can communicate better. We can be communicators on the floor. We can be good communicators with coaches, players. I think that we are too scared in the emotion of the game to approach a coach and give dialogue. Or we run away from coaches that may have a question after a tough call. I think as officials, we need to do a better job in regards to that, because that just makes the games go smoother. If you and the coach are on the same page and not bickering and arguing the whole game, then the game is going to be so much smoother.
Right.
We just don't. I relate it to confidence. Your confidence on the court is going to exude to the coaches and the players. If you don't have that confidence on the court, it's not going to exude, and that open line of communication. I think that's the key for us to be successful in the coaches, officials dynamic of the game.
I think that's well said. And I'll just piggyback on that a little bit. I think just if you don't know who the coach is in the pregame, say, Coach, I'm willing to talk to you. Just, keep the respect factor. When we get a chance, we'll come and chat with you if you got any questions on anything. And then you guys we can keep it moving from there. You guys got anything else? Okay, great. Let's have a great game and just keep it short and sweet.
And I think the pregame is very important in that kind of communication, because when I meet with the captains, I'll say, you can come to us anytime, right attitude, right moment, and we'll answer any questions you may have. But we don't say that to the coaches. We just say, hey, good luck.
Right.
So if we expand that to the coaches, then they'll know, okay, I can ask a question if it's at the right timeout or whatever. And we can have that dialogue. But if we don't let the coaches know and it just happens during the game and we don't know how to handle it, then That's where the problems come.
For sure. And then the last one would be the players. I think just the social media generation that we're in now. I mean, you got kids rocking babies going like this, 3-point arrows, all that sort of stuff. And you want to keep it fun, obviously, and you want kids to enjoy whatever it is they're doing. But I do think that sometimes we're not in the NBA. NBA is entertainment.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
it is.
College is more of a business. NBA is a business too, but they're in the business of getting revenue, selling tickets, and all that stuff. So they want to showcase their players and the talents that they have.
Yeah.
But when you're in high school, just enjoy with your teammates. High fives are good. Celebrations are good when it includes everybody. But I think when you start doing those other gimmicks, because they've seen Russell Westbrook do it, the too small or rocking the baby. That this is a little too much. But it all trickles down from NBA to college into high school, and you can even see it at the youth level too. But I would just say, just enjoy it with your teammates in your group. Don't make the spectacle about you. If you're on the bench and you want to do the 3-point arrow, that's great. Or everybody's in boom on the 3-pointers now. I think have fun, but just have some respect for your opponent.
Exactly. And sportsmanship is one of the points of emphasis for all players, bench personnel, and the fans. So as officials, we're gonna tighten down on that. I mean, if you're giving a celebration towards your bench and it's the too small or the arrow, or I may come by and say, knock it off. That's unsportsmanlike. If you're doing directly at a player, then that's when I'm going to come in with the immediate technical. There was one kid last year who made a fantastic dunk. And then as he was running down, he did the slash the throat arrow. And I gave him immediate T. I mean, because it was towards the fans, but that was over crossing the line. And, if you make it respectful and just trying to have fun between your team and do it subtly, then I'm pretty much going to let it go. But when it comes to sportsmanship towards another player or the stands, then that's when I have to be more.
The other one more thing that I was thinking about when you said that is see the lion behind me.
Yes.
A lot of these coaches are very similar to that. And so if you leave us alone, we'll be good. But there's been times where I haven't said one word, and that's because first of all, I don't think any ref goes in there like, I want to miss calls. And I don't think any coaches go in and say, I really want to get on the officials. All we want is a fair game. So if everything's going well and we're into the second quarter, I still haven't said anything, and this is the first time that I say something to you. Don't get on me about, coach, that's enough. Literally, that's the first thing I just said. And so that can also put us coaches now on the offensive, because we've been chilling the whole game, and now you want to say something. Those are the ones where I'm like, what? This is the first thing I even said. And now you got me. I might have been at a 5. Now I'm close to 10.
And I think that's a lot of insecurities of when coaches of your tenure and the other officials around, you're right. You may not say nothing for the second half, and then when you automatically say something, it puts them on defense. So the only mechanism is to, okay, coach, that's enough. But at that point, you got to give that coach a little more rope, because if he hasn't said nothing, he or she hasn't said nothing for the whole first half, and then you may see a call that you think is questionable, and you ask about it. You have that right as a coach, and we as officials shouldn't get on the defensive and let our egos get in the way because you question the call. That's what it's about. They're going to question calls or non-calls because they're fighting for their team. And if you're fighting for your team, then we as officials have to understand that and answer the question as best as our ability can answer, and just give you an answer and move on.
For sure. And I don't like to be too negative or anything like that, but what has been like the craziest scenario that you've personally witnessed, whether you evaluating the official or officials at the game, or something directly that happened to you personally within a basketball game?
I think it was, and me personally, it was me and Scott Calvin on Kevin Mack's game. I think it was a second round of the playoffs or something.
Mhm.
And they were coming down for they were on a break, and I was coming down as a new lead. And his kid was going up for a layup, was kind of falling towards the wall. The defender was kind of going with him, and they both went to the ground. I didn't have a call on that, and I remember Kevin at half court yelling at me, "Mark, that's a foul! That's a foul!" I was like, "Kevin, their bodies were both going away from the ball. There was very little contact, and because Kevin was out of his box, I could have gave him a T, but he was fighting for his players. So, and he thought that was a foul,
Right.
in which I had a different perspective. So I didn't give him a T. I just said, "Get back in your box. That's what it is," and we just moved on. So, I have those kind of relationship with almost all the coaches that I officiate, so they'll understand that. Yeah, they'll be mad of the non-call or the call, but then we can go right back to basketball after that. They won't linger on that. I think that was one of the plays of last year that stuck in my mind all year. And me and Kevin are great together
Right.
out the court. He understands that my officiating and what he's going to get every night when I officiate his games, and I understand that he's a fiery coach and he's going to fight for his kids. And if he thinks something's wrong, he's going to voice it.
For sure.
So
That makes me think back to Nate Ramazani back when I used to coach at Lee, JV boys basketball, and he was just coming up. So I think he had both games that night, but he teed me up.
mhm.
And this is my boy. He
Yeah.
teed me up, but I deserved it.
Yeah.
I deserved it. And I actually wanted the technical because I wanted to spark an interest in our team, but I was a lot more fiery back then. I think just having the perspective of, look, it's a high school basketball game at the end of the day.
Yes.
If we can all get to the game, we can all watch the game, we can be entertained by the game, we can enjoy the competition, we can either win the game or lose the game.
Mhm.
You walk away, you slap fives with the other team, shake hands with the other coach,
Yeah.
appreciate the officials for their time,
Mhm.
and we keep it moving. In
Yeah.
the ideal world, that's all we want.
Yeah.
Get to the game, watch the game, make it home.
Mhm.
If we can do those three things, and if everybody kept it in that perspective, and again, it is very difficult to keep that perspective when
Mhm.
you're in competition,
Yeah.
because it does bring the worst out of us sometimes.
Yes.
But when you think about it, it's really that simple.
Yes, it is. It is that simple. And if all coaches, players, and fans took that perspective, then I think the game would be much smoother. We'll retain officials and not lose as many as we have. I mean, this year we gained 10 new officials, which is great, which brings our numbers up and doesn't make a signing a nightmare for me. But it's how they're treated if we're going to retain them past next year.
How many officials do you guys have in BASO?
We have 105
Okay.
On the roster.
And then how many games during a league season are you, like, in 1 week, how many games do you have to assign?
Anywhere between 40 and 50 games a week.
Jeez.
With WCAL, they're all 3-person, so you have to, pick the most experienced officials or some upcoming officials to put on those games. Which in WCAL you have 2 men's games a week and 2 women's games a week. So that's 3 officials on each game. So that kind of diminishes our roster.
And that's what, 14 games?
Yes.
So right there is 14 games, and you're taking 3 officials
so that's
for each one of those.
That's 21 officials if my math is right. Yeah, 14. Yeah. So it's compared to past years, we're in a much better space now than what we were a few years ago. So it's retaining those officials and making them love the game just like myself and Scott and everybody else that's been involved in refereeing for a long time.
Yeah.
Just retaining those officials and bringing them through the ranks, just like everybody else.
Yeah, and we don't need to get into what they make, but it's not a lot of money. I had Ali and Ryan Cooper over here last week, and we're just hanging out in the backyard and watching football. And she's an official, and I said, what's the rate now for officials, 3-man, 2-man? She told me, and I calculated. So I'm like, man, if you did 30 games, is that it's almost like really all the other stuff that goes into it.
Yeah,
I'm like, whew, that might not.
And that's why we don't do it for the money. We do it for the love of the game and just to give back to the kids.
Right.
And I really wish parents would understand that too.
Yeah, I'm hoping a lot of parents watch this or listen to this, because if we don't have them, we have no game. Or we might get down to one official and they have to do the full game, which is extremely difficult to do. So I don't have any answers other than just people treat everybody a lot better. Why don't you talk about, because you're very similar in the fact that you want to create great relationships, and you do that with your staff members. I know you have everybody over, all your officials over yearly, annually. I know you play golf with a lot of your officials or work out. Talk about those relationships that you guys have.
I think officiating is a brotherhood, whether you doing high school or college. And, I'm just the person that wants to bring everybody together. So annually, every year, Labor Day weekend, that's in September, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Labor Day weekend, I have a huge barbecue for the officials, college and high school. I wouldn't say all of the officials, pretty much our core group of officials, we have a barbecue for. I invited coaches. You're on the list next year, by the way.
I'd love to come.
Kevin Mack was on the list, even though he hasn't came yet. Ryan Cooper, who
he's been there,
who I respect deeply and is a real good friend, and his wife Allie. So it's kind of like a camaraderie thing before the season starts, because when we're in the season, once November and December, nobody has time to meet up and just kind of talk. So that's our time before the season starts to talk about things and perspective and just have a good time. That's me giving back to the association and just our core group of officials that work very hard, tirelessly helping me and Scott out training and doing things. And, they work. If I have to put them on a triple, they'll do it. And, it's just my little give back. Just come eat. Don't have to worry about anything. Come and talk, have a good time with people that you probably haven't seen or, about to see during the season. So that's my way of giving back.
No, I think that's great. And coaches are the same way. It's a fraternity, a brother / sisterhood that we all have. And we all hang out as coaches, and we talk about officials as well. We talk about the game in general, and I know you guys do the same thing. Do you guys come to a consensus on coaches? You're like, they're a little too much.
Oh yeah. We have a dialogue. We have a dialogue about coaches. And it's all in fun. It's not to jab at them or anything, but it's kind of like, man, did you have that coach last year? It's like, man, I want to tee him up so bad, and but I didn't, So we have stories about coaches, and we talk about plays that that we've had during the year, and kind of share stories on that front too. So it's a good time.
I had I'm not going to say his name on here, but he was like, when I came to speak for the for Paul's event, one of the refs comes up to me. He's like, "Yeah, one of the clips that you sent in to Mark, I was on." I was like, "Oh my goodness," because I like them, but Yeah, it was just funny because I was going to speak about it, and then he's like, yeah, one of the clips you sent in got posted on what not to do. So thanks for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that's how me and Scott evaluate officials. I mean, we tell coaches, hey, if you have a problem with official or what they did or what they didn't do, send us a clip so we can look at it, and it's a teaching point. And if more officials got into looking at film, I think the whole officiating in high school basketball would improve. But when you don't have officials that don't want to look at film or ask coach, hey, can I get a clip of that game so I can kind of see what it is, then they're just going to keep making the same mistakes. And we want all our officials to improve year over year, because tell you the truth, I'm on my last years of officiating. Scott's pretty much on his last years in officiating. So these newer officials, we have to train them up so they can do your games and high level A games and do playoff games, CCS playoffs and NorCals, and because the CCS demands that we put the best officials on those games. And if we only have a few officials, then you're going to see the Mark Grays, you're going to see the Scott Calvins, you're going to see the Ryan Skates and Nate Ramazanis and on those games, because we are the elite of that group, along with more officials that are on the elite side, but they don't want to see us every year on a CCS championship game. So these newer officials have to step up and kind of take that realm on, because we're not going to be here forever.
Right. And yeah, and that's like, as you get older as a coach too, it's the same thing where it's like you need to get the next group ready.
Mhm.
Get the next group ready to that'll be the circle of the game that'll continue to rise up and grow. So I think that's extremely important. What can those officials do to like get up the ranks more?
I mean, go to camps. I've been going to camps I still go to camps after doing it for 18 plus years, because I never want to be stagnant in my craft. So I always go to camps. These new officials, they need to go to Paul's camp. There's many camps around here that are not actually hiring camps, but training camps they can go to. Paul's camp is an excellent camp to go to, because you have all your local signers there, and they can evaluate you to see where you go through the year. But there's many different teaching camps that these officials can go to get better. During the summer, most of my summer stuff is 3-person and high level summer leagues. Mountain View has a great summer league program that has high competition. So I'll put them on some of those games with a veteran official so they can get the experience. But if you don't do nothing, you can't expect results.
Right.
So
yeah. If you don't put the work in, like if you don't work out, you're obviously not going to be in shape.
Yes.
Or if you don't put the work in as a coach, your team isn't going to be very good.
Mhm.
And same thing with officiating.
Yes.
And if you can have a work ethic in one thing, you can also have a work ethic in something else. And
Yes.
so I think that is very important for all these young officials. And we need you,
Yes.
just as coaches. I think the best thing is to have the dialogue and conversations with us. Just like you guys are human. You guys got your uniform on during the game. You take it off, you're a human being.
Yes.
And same thing as coaches, even if we get all up in arms with certain things, because we do put a lot into it.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to try to make sure that it's even. At the end of the day, man, just shake hands with each other and keep it moving.
Yes.
As we kind of wind down here, what's the major difference between high school and college?
College, I think you have to be more engaged. I mean, the players are bigger, they're faster, they're moving at an extreme rate, very, very, very athletic. So you have to be really into your craft to do college. You have to work hard. I mean, they have hiring camps just like you, and they have evaluators, and you get hired based off what you do on the court. But I think film study is important in college. Rule knowledge is important in high school and college, because you don't want to adjudicate a rule that's wrong, because it may cost a team a game, and you get suspended at that level. I think the college game is more mental, just because there's so many different variations to the rule from college to high school. So and just being in shape, those guys get up and down, and if you're not in shape, you can't keep up.
Right. And so I think the rule thing is important. We're playing a team the other day, and it's a 2-possession game with under a minute to play. And so I go to the official because they had been stopping the clock after made baskets. And you and I both know that is illegal in the high school game. Now, in the NBA, they stop it as soon as the ball goes in. And college, I believe they do the same thing if it's under a minute. But I seen that in the previous game because it was a tournament. And I told the official, and he didn't recognize it. I said, just so you know, they've been stopping the clock, after a made basket, like under a minute. And the other coach, assistant coach, is going up in arms. The clock is running. And I just kind of like winked to my assistant. I was like, that's the reason why I said it to him, because I knew that was going to happen in case they made a basket, because they didn't have no timeouts left. And if that ball goes in, even if there's 10 seconds, I just told my kids to meander on over and get the ball.
Yeah.
You don't have to even throw it in if it's under 5 seconds. So, I think knowing the rules, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
In colleges, it's a different level, and you got to be like, those coaches are actually getting paid to win those games. So that's that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna use a quote that Scott Calvin always uses. Knowledge of the rules exudes confidence on the court. If you know the rules, then your confidence level on the court is going to be exceptional. If you don't know the rules, then your confidence is not going to be as good on the court.
Right. I agree. And
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So the new 5-foul rule, how do coaches adjust to that, and do they like the new rule?
I think, we're only three games in, so we're trying to figure that out as coaches. I think there's different ways that you can utilize it to your benefit. I think knowing the out of bounds points, those are, there's only 4 spots now. If there's going to be a foul call, I think that's important too. So baseline and sideline out of bounds opportunities, like, we're not trying to give up a bucket on a baseline out of bounds.
Yes.
Because there's so many more times that the ball is going to be there at those spots.
Yeah.
But the 5 fouls, I think it makes sense, unless you get in the bonus early on. But I like the fact that it resets, so it's not killing you the whole half.
Yes. Yes.
If you get banged on in the first quarter, well, the likelihood of you getting into the bonus again is probably unlikely.
Yes.
So I like the rule. I think it mirrors what the college game is. And high school, or excuse me, in the pros. There's just so many different rules for all these, for all these organizations. The rules for the men's and women's college are different. They got 4 quarters. The men still have 2 periods.
Yes.
Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand, but I'm probably sure it's because of the ad revenue that they can get on the under 16. The under 12, 8
and 4.
So they're getting more timeouts than the girls' side. So I can probably see why that happens, because if you follow the money, that's usually where everything leads. But to answer your question, I think it's still up for interpretation. But I don't dislike it. I actually like it. I think some of the games are going longer now. Like, I think our boys, because they're pressing and running and jumping. The other team shot 38 free throws.
Oh, wow.
The other night.
Wow.
38. Like, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a style of play. And there was 100 possessions in that game that they got offensively. They got 100. So that was a 200 possession type of game.
Wow.
And I think it was 2-man because it's the preseason. So, so I don't know. We'll kind of figure that out as we go along here. But I don't dislike it. What do you think?
I think it, in some cases, it speeded up the game. in some cases it slowed up the game. I mean, like if you have a team that fouls a lot, then yeah, it's gonna slow the game up. But I think teams are adjusting to the fact, because now when I'm on the court, I hear, hey, we got 4 fouls, we have to stop fouling so much, or 3 fouls and 2 more, we're in the bonus. So I think it has its advantages and disadvantages, but like time will tell,
Right.
overall, of how that rule was implemented, and if it works.
I think we've only been in the bonus one time this year too, but
Mm.
that's a point of emphasis that we're trying not to foul.
Yeah.
Can we play defense without fouling? And the marginal contact, like you said, is one thing, but we don't want to have illegal contact. We're especially like on drives to the basket, we're teaching legal guarding position, which is basically 10 toes and shoulders in front.
Yes.
If we can get to that, we can't be on the side, because now we're leaving it open
Yeah.
to somebody, their interpretation of
the
it being illegal
Mhm.
contact or marginal contact.
Mhm.
But if we got shoulders in front and 10 toes in front, well, there's we should probably get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
If the offense is the one creating the contact. And then the big one, I think, is when everybody is now trying to teach verticality and
Yes.
keep your hands straight up.
Mhm.
However, if the offense goes into you and your hands go down, well, normally that's going to be a foul on the offense, or defense,
Yes.
because we came down and we lost the verticality of that. And so what we're trying to tell, and coaches, they listen to this, but we say elbows behind ears.
Mhm.
If we can keep our elbows behind ears and they hit you and you stay there, well, it's probably going to be marginal
Yeah.
or incidental contact, and it's not going to be considered a foul. So
Yeah.
I think that's the way we look at it.
Mhm.
At least our staff does. And I know a lot of other great coaches are dissecting it the way that we're doing.
Yeah.
There may be other opportunity, like, so you guys started catching on. People were fouling with their body instead of their
Yeah.
hands.
Mhm.
So now we're trying to go away from that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah. And we teach our officials, if you referee the defense is going to tell you if it's a foul or not. The offense player is not going to tell you if it's a foul. If we're reffing the ball and the offensive player, our call accuracy is going to diminish. If we referee the defense, then our call accuracy is gonna rise, because the defense doesn't know where the offense is going. The defense is trying to react to where the offense is going. So if you ref the defensive player, if it's a foul or not.
Yeah.
If in your instance, if the offensive player is initiating the contact and the defender is straight up and the contact causes his arm to calm down, why are we penalizing the defense?
I agree with that.
So that's what we try and teach. But some of the upcoming officials, they react to contact, and we have to get them away from reacting to contact, ref the defense, and the defense is going to tell you if it's a foul or not.
Yeah, and I think the same thing for coaches. Like when our team is on defense, I don't watch the offense, because I watch our defense, because if we're in the right spots based on where the ball is, and you can obviously use peripheral vision to see, but I can see that our post player is not in the midline when the ball is over here, or if somebody's going to try to cross their face or something like that. So I think when you look at the game a different way, most people that are laymen would like to just see where the ball is at.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, it's watch the defense, and you can watch the defense when they're guarding the ball, like as an official, but you're watching where the defensive placement, because they're going to tell the whole story.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a very good point that a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
Anything else that you want to tell the listeners? Anything on your mind?
No, I mean, basketball is a very enclosed sport where everybody's close, and we hear everything, good, bad, or indifferent. And I just wish that fans would just think about sportsmanship in the game. And I think it'll make the game go much smoother. We'll retain our officials in this area, because you have three other associations that we all pick out of the same officials pool. We have SVSOA in the Peninsula, we have PSI in the South, and we have ARC, who does the East Side schools. So we're all picking from the same officials pool. I think BASO has done a good job in retaining our officials to the schools that we provide, for a long period of time, because they understand the history, and they understand that, all the coaches in our school pretty much respect our officials and know that we're going to do a good job in the training that Scott does, and with the help of me and the other officials. So we've been able to retain our officials, where most the other associations have lost their officials. So we don't want to lose officials because fans think that they're entitled to just say anything to our officials.
For sure.
Be respectful, respect the game, respect each other, and respect us as officials.
For sure.
And I think it'll be.
Is there a way that all those organizations can come under one umbrella?
No, it won't. Because you have Rick Moore, who's our owner for BASO, and then you have Mike Adams in SOA, and then you have Ortega in ARC and PSI. There'll be no way that we'll conform a consortium. We just do it all independently and separately.
Is there a benefit to coming together?
I don't think it'll be a benefit to come together, just because the dynamics of the area, and the contracts the school have with certain associations. All of our schools are under contract for a year. They're able to go to somebody else after a year if they choose to. But all our schools know that we're a very good association, and we take care of our officials, so they don't go out to other schools or other associations to officiate their games. And I think that's the way it will be for.
Is there like competitive bidding for how much they're going to charge for a game?
Well, the CCS sets the pay standard.
Okay.
So it's really no competitive. It's all about the quality of officials.
Got it.
What quality of officials are they going to get on their games? And through the history, BASO, PSI has always supplied a great amount of qualified officials that will do the game, to the best of their ability.
Good. I got one final question for you. If there's somebody that should be on the Beyond the Bucket show, who would it be, or who should it be? But you have to make the connection if I don't know them.
I would say Scott Calvert.
I was going to say he should be on. Yes,
he should, because Scott has been a pillar. He started with Fermar, then PSI, then BASO. Scott is a pillar in basketball, and he has a lot of knowledge. You talk about a guy that knows the rules like the back of his hand. That's one guy that knows and can give you a unique perspective on officiating and evaluation of officials.
100%. So that is it for Mark Gray today. Thank you for stopping in and chatting. I know we got a big Niner game coming up here.
Yes.
So we're about to get to that. But that's Beyond the Bucket show. Here is the outro.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.